Man, I find it interesting that our people are ready to deny their African blood after all the work we put in. We want to deny our African blood, the strongest blood on the planet. We're going to speak on it, right? We're going to speak on it. Who are the real Indians in America? Is it black people with woolly hair? Or is it a dark-skinned people, right? A light-skinned people called copper people with straight black hair? Who is the original Indian in America? Well, let's get straight to the facts. Let's deal with it. All right. Now, this video that I'm going to show you, this is an AI-based video. And in the case of disseminating knowledge and truths, AI can be sketchy, right? Because you know AI is drawing from social media, it's drawing from the internet to put a narrative together based on whatever you're looking for. And in this video, they use foundational Black Americans. And we know the term foundational Black Americans is not an ancient or an old or a colonial term used then, right? We're using it today. And this video uses foundational Black Americans. But we want to get into this sauce and check out the ingredients of this sauce and see who are the real Indians in America. Indians came after the Africans. Okay. The Indians are not as ancient as the Africans, which means the Indians, if you're a Black American and you say, oh, I go back to the Indians, you're not more ancient than the African Americans, these Negroes. Let's listen to the video, and then we're going to put our 9 cents on it. All right?
Became an integral part of the Choctaw Nation through the institution of slavery. By the 19th century, the Choctaws, like many southeastern tribes, had incorporated chattel slavery into their economic systems, mirroring the structures of southern plantations. This adoption of slavery was a strategic move to assimilate into the European settler culture, maintain economic stability, and wield political leverage against the pressures of Western expansion. Yet it's crucial
Hold on.
to remember that the Choctaws had their own pre-existing tradition of incorporating war captives, either as slaves or adopted community members, a practice that predates and differs from European chattel.
All right, I want to go back to this, right? As you can see, that's a depiction of a Native American or an American Indian. But based on the dang Calloway Indians and those of the likes, they are saying that the brother that is on his knees is the original American Indian. Then how did this happen? How did this happen? You know the information about the 5 civilized tribes? They stood hand in hand with the white man, took on the game plan, and also began enslaving African Americans who were originally Africans. And if we predate any of these Native Americans in America, we didn't originate in America. No human being originated in America, in South America, in the islands, in Asia, in Australia, and wherever else black people were found, Europe. We are dealing with science. We ain't dealing with emotional reasoning. There is no human being that originated outside of Africa. There is no mankind races that originated outside of Africa before Africans. We were assimilated, right, by people who came after us. Y'all rarely talk about what the white man did to claim to be Indian, to take the land, right, to tell who was an Indian, who wasn't an Indian. Y'all talk about the reclassification of Walter Plecker in 1924. Come on, man. How many months, years did black people and Native Americans have the time to integrate, intermix, and create families? The Indians was reclassified as Negroes. That didn't happen everywhere in America. But y'all know in America, it is white and black. When you say black American, you could be talking about original black people from Africa with woolly hair and beautiful melanin skin. You could be talking about so-called Native Americans, American Indians, Amerindians in America with dark skin and straight black hair. Not all Indians got dark skin, but they definitely got straight black hair. You could be talking about East Indians that came over here also in Virginia in the 1600s, who are dark skinned and light skinned with straight black hair. You could be talking about them. When you say black, black is ambiguous. When you say foundational black Americans, you can be talking about the same people I just mentioned. That means anybody from the islands coming into America, any African coming into America can be black Americans. Black East Indians came into America back then. They were fighting to be white. The government was like, nah. But today, they not putting black Negro on their birth certificates. They putting white. So if you a black Indian, and your grandma said, we're Indians, why you spend so much time being an African American? Why African American? Why didn't you go get that paperwork done? Now, if you look, dealing with the Racial Integrity Act in 1924, that shit was eradicated in like the 1960s. And some of y'all who are claiming to be Indians today, you're in the time where you can go right back into that office. I got my genealogy, changed my shit up. But y'all not doing that. Like Dan Calloway ain't doing that. Did Dan Calloway show y'all any paperwork? Oh, I got one ancestor. One ancestor don't make you indigenous Indian. Look at this picture. Y'all overlooking this and glossing this. Y'all actually think y'all the dude standing up over a African American, over an African. Y'all actually think the only thing that y'all doing is blackfacing this Indian. And see, y'all show black women all the time. And when you show a nigga a cosplaying as an Indian, it's a modern day picture. Y'all go back and start showing them black and white pictures. Yeah, they look dark skinned, but they got straight hair. Let's listen, and then we're gonna get into this. We're gonna get into this science. That's what this is all about. It's not about emotional reasoning. It's about science, right? Let's get into it. Let's listen to some more. Then we're gonna put this information on it.
Or adopted community members, a practice that predates and differs from European chattel slavery. But then, there were others, individuals of Black Indian descent like Mary Duncan, who traced their lineage within the Choctaw Nation to a time before the institution of slavery. In a 2004 interview, Mary Duncan, a member of the Choctaw Nation in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, stated that there were many Black Indians in the Americas before the arrival of the Pilgrims. She emphasized that their fight was for citizenship as Black Indians, not African Americans, tracing their roots back to Native American ancestors rather than African ones. So these histories suggest that the relation.
How would you prove that? That the sister that they just showed, and you can be anybody you want to be. And who am I to question who you are? I'm saying scientifically, this has to be proven. It can't be emotional reasoning, or you was enslaved by them Indians, and when you became a freedman, you have African blood and you have some Native American blood. Okay, in the case of an Indian freedman, okay, what we are stating, or what is being stated, is that you have African blood and you have Native American blood, American Indian blood, and possibly less European blood. There are some Black Americans in America that ain't never seen no Indian. And that the descendancy is based on Africans and Europeans only. You sprinkle one or two Native American women in there, or you know what I'm saying? That's not gonna make a difference. That don't make you indigenous. And so how would you prove that Black Americans or blacks were Indians, or there were Black Indians in America that before the colonizer came in here, when these colonizers used these terms? They are the originators of these terms. There is no people that grew, originated, was created in America that's Black without being created in Africa first. There is no scientific proof. There is no scientific history. You can go and find, like I tell people when I debate people, you can go on the internet and you can find references to try to back up your point. What we get stuck on is the point being made and overlook the references to see if the references is real. In the case of this information here with this AI, right, we're going to dig into that article concerning the elder, and we're going to read from it. Let's do that right now. We seen this picture in the video, and many claiming to be Black Indians only with no African ancestry, right? Use this beautiful elder as a reference. Now, am I denying her protest? No. Okay. When you put the term Black in front of Indian, that says that you came after the Indian. Let's read this article. It says Hattiesburg woman to receive award. It didn't say Choctaw woman. It said Hattiesburg. The elder Mary Duncan, 87, of Hattiesburg, is a black Indian. Her father, Edward Joshua, was a member of the Mississippi Choctaw tribe. Her father. She didn't say my grandmother. She said her father. Okay? Now, can anybody find a picture of her father, Edward Joshua? We are given a link to her paternal bloodline, her paternal bloodline, her father. But who is the mother? Okay? Who was the mother? Now, we also know during slavery that the children had to take on the classification of the mother. It says was a member of the Mississippi Choctaw tribe. And Duncan grew up speaking the Choctaw language. Although it is hard to remember much of it now, she said her early life was full of powwows and many other American Indian traditions. That shouldn't be denied. How she grew up, that shouldn't be denied. But does this make her indigenous to the land? Because the article wouldn't have to pinpoint the father. It would say, this is who these people are. Also, it will be known that the straight-haired Indians came later. But they'll tell you that's the plot. But when you use reasoning, it's understandable. Okay? Duncan recently was selected to receive the Heritage Award from Black Indians United. Anybody familiar with Black Indians United? Are we familiar with Black Indians United like we're familiar with the NAACP? Okay. Are we familiar with Black Indians United like we familiar with Minister Farrakhan? Like we're familiar with Noble Drew Ali? Like we're familiar with Clarence 13X? Like we're familiar with Dr. Malachi Z. York? Like we're familiar with Marcus Garvey? Are we familiar with Black Indians United? Her grandson, Hattiesburg native Edgar Al Mollett, is president of the organization. He said his American Indian heritage is very important to him and his family, but it has not been an easy heritage to trace. As a child, sitting around a fire with cousins and uncles, dancing, singing, and shouting in what sounded like strange gibberish seemed like just a good time, said Mollett. He later would discover that the strange gibberish was the Choctaw language. The song and dance, he said, were all a part of ceremonies led by his grandmother and her siblings. So he must be talking about the powwows. But why would the Choctaw language be classified as gibberish when it's actually a language? He didn't know it was a language as a kid. Right? So this is emotional reasoning to me. Mollett said he was about 10 when his grandmother told him he was not just black. What does black mean right here? What does it mean right there? That he was not just black. You could be European mix and your mom and your your white mom can say, hey, you're not just black. Okay, you're not just like your dad. You're European as well. And then we're pushing the European side. We're doing away with the niggas, trying to. Ain't that's really what's cracking right now. We want to do away with the original people on the planet that brought the people on the planet. That's weird. He said he was hesitant to believe her at first. Why? You're 10 years old. So what's going around you for you not to believe your grandmother at first? That's you're not living like a Choctaw. Okay? I say it all the time, man. Uh the lack of comprehension, man, that's a dis-ease that leads to ignorance. But now he fully understands, right, what she was talking about. At what age did you understand what she was talking about? Molet and his wife, Angela, are Black Indians, African Indians, Negro Indians. Negro is African. Anybody dark was called Negro, but Negroes are Africans. Okay. They lived in Enid, Oklahoma, where Angela is a curator of Southern Heights Museum. It wasn't until 1999 that the Molets seriously began exploring their Native American roots. 1999, my man is 10 years old when he was told how many years is between this. Began exploring their Native American roots. Dan Calloway said don't use Native American though, but here is you being used interchangeably. Angela said the journey into their lineage, she said, has been an eye-opening and exciting experience that continues today. But the experience, Angela Moles said, has not always been joyful. It has been sad, enriching, and it has been sad, enriching, and overwhelming. Angela Molet said, I have met some Choctaws who said we would never be accepted. You can be accepted though when it comes down to black people, when it comes down to our African people. Y'all niggas is saying, oh, the Africans is separatists, the Africans is hating on the black Americans, and woo 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 woo. You know how crazy it sounds to want to separate from your kinfolk? Man, I don't have no problem with no Africans. I've never run into no problem with no Africans. I've gotten money with Africans. You understand what I'm saying? My first wife is an African. It's African and black. And the island, and my island folk. Okay? That's that new shit. There was no separatist hate for Africans or people from the Caribbean, our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean, or any black person identifying with black before 1999. That's another thing that has never happened in America, where black Americans protested against Africans and brothers and sisters from the Caribbean islands. Just like there has never been a black American protest where we stood up and said, we're indigenous Americans. We're Indians. That has never happened. Let's continue to read. The Choctaws who said we would never be accepted. And Al Molet said problems have come in his family with relatives who ignore their American Indian heritage and insist he should focus on his African American roots. Now, you got Native American right here and American Indian right here is being used interchangeably. We embrace any African roots we have, Angela Molet said. Don't use the elder's picture to say that this is the original indigenous American prior to the Siberian Huskies coming over here. Before the moonlit ghost people came over here. Okay, this is the write up on this history. Let's the family is saying embrace that African. Black Indians are not necessarily slaves who mixed with Native Americans, she said. Black black Indians would be a mixed people, or these people were described as black with straight hair, and today you Negroes is getting it twisted. I already showed you that North America does not have the climate and the temperament to produce you melanin skin. People in America with woolly hair. There's the sun shining over here, not producing that stock. That's that strong stock right there. Black Indians are documented as being in the Americas as early as 1500 BC. Now, when you say Black Indians, who are you talking about? East Indians, American Indians, people from the Caribbean islands, South Americans. Who are you talking about when you say Black Indians? African slaves and Native Americans did mix, Angela Mollett said, and their offspring also are counted as Black Indians. Where? Okay. But there were many Black Indians in America before the Pilgrims arrived. That's a lot of information right there. Okay. And there is no facts behind this. It's emotional reasoning. Shouldn't there be a picture of Joshua Edward? Mollett said that even though her ancestors walked the Trail of Tears, she is still not recognized by U.S. and tribal governments as a Native American. However, she says she is chairwoman of an organization, Freedmen, descendants of the 5 civilized tribes who helped the white man to enslave you and get money off of your backs. You looking for acceptance, right? Shouldn't you be counting when your ancestor began to be reclassified as an Indian? And then you should be getting money starting from the ancestor that was taken into the one of the 5 civilized tribes. Y'all don't want reparations from the Indians. Y'all want acceptance. We gonna look at the Choctaw Indians today that's getting money in the Choctaw government that works to get Black Indians official recognition of their heritage. Heritage is air, right? Is air. What are Black Indians being given based on their heritage and any of these 5 civilized tribes? We just seen the video. They practiced chattel slavery. So you mean to tell me the 5 civilized tribes enslaved their own people, or the original people in America? How did that come to be? We're fighting for citizenship as Black Indians, not African Americans. How does that work when you're dealing with the United States? What happens then? We're fighting for citizenship. Why are you fighting for citizenship? Citizenship? And you the original Choctaw, though. These Indians don't know that? You said pre-colonial. Before the pilgrims came in here, there was black Indians. Well, who was the owners of the land? And y'all talking about delineation from Africans? Who was the owners of the land? The black Choctaw or the red Choctaw? We're fighting for citizenship as black Indians, not Choctaw. We're not fighting to get the fake Indians up out our government. Okay, was woolly haired people on them treaties? When I say woolly haired people, I ain't got to mention the skin on them treaties. She said we traced our roots and we found Sitting Bull, not Kunta Kinte. That's deep. That's deep. That's deep. Hold up. Let's read that again. We traced our roots and we found Sitting Bull, not Kunta Kinte. That character Kunta Kinte, or if Kunta Kinte came from where he came from, who did he look like? The slaves that was enslaved. He looked like that brother that was on his knees in front of that American Indian man. That's who Kunta Kinte looked like. Kunta Kinte, if he was brought over, and we know this is the fabrication, all right, but the depiction of him being brought over here from Africa looked like what some black Americans look like. But she said they traced the roots and we found Sitting Bull. Now, I know y'all seeing the advertisements right now on Netflix on Sitting Bull, but this is how they depict it. This is a false depiction of Sitting Bull. Y'all not protesting that? This nigga don't have no afro. He don't have woolly hair. She said she found Sitting Bull. Wait, but Joshua Edwards, her father, Sitting Bull don't have this type of hair. Okay. Black people don't come from these people? Are you crazy? Black people do not. Man, it's highly unfavorable to me, man. This is very disrespectful. This is very disrespectful. They say you found Sitting Bull at the top of your lineage and not Kunta Kinte, even though that's a fabrication. You know what was implied. Y'all talking about Africans wasn't enslaved. The slave trade didn't happen. And you go back and you found Sitting Bull. It's interesting when he died, December 15th. That's my birthday. Shout out to all the Sagittarians out there. Let's go into a little bit of Sitting Bull. This is why this write-up is dumb. This write-up right here, okay? The sister talking in the write-up is dumb, okay? Because she said she talked Choctaw. Where's Sitting Bull from? Okay, where is he from? Hunk Papa Lakota leader who led his people during years of resistance against the United States. They got a Netflix series on right now. Okay, they said Sitting Bull was a hell of a warrior, right? Y'all, all y'all black Indians, especially if this is y'all ancestor, should go look at the Netflix series. Y'all should be talking about that in the next coming weeks to see how they threw in the false information. Sitting Bull was killed by Indian Agency police, accompanied by U.S. officers and supported by U.S. troops on the Standing Rock Indian Reservation during an attempt to arrest him at a time when authorities feared that he would join the ghost dance movement. The ghost dance is a ceremony incorporated into numerous Native American belief systems. We're not going to get into that. I just want to see where Sitting Bull is from. Grand River Unorganized Territory. All right, so Lakota, Dakota, all that. He not even a Choctaw Indian. This is what I'm talking about. He not even a Choctaw Indian. He way on the left side. And she said she found Sitting Bull. Despite resistance, Al Mollett said it was the right decision for his family to search for their roots. Started in 1999. There's nothing wrong with that, man. Is white people in your bloodline too. A lot of family members didn't like what I was doing, Al Mollett said. Why? Shouldn't it be the other way around, Dane Calloway? Shouldn't it be the other way around? A lot of family members didn't like what I was doing, Al Mollett said. They would say, why can't you be happy just being black? What is a black Indian? Why can't you be happy not knowing that you don't come from this land, that they enslaved our African ancestors? That's what's being asked. And you trying to be like them Indians? That's not us. That's what's being said in this question from a family member. But in order to understand ourselves as a people, we need to know where we came from. And obviously he don't know. Indians came after Africans. Duncan said she is the last surviving member of her family who knew her Choctaw father. The traditions he taught her, she said, have been very important to her. Respect. Al Mollett and his wife are working to keep those traditions alive. You know, that's a whole lot of embellishment going on right there. That's a whole lot of embellishment. But let's check this out. Y'all know what haplogroups is? It says a haplogroup is a genetic population group sharing a common ancestor. And you know, you Black Americans haplogroup ain't got nothing to do with the Native American haplogroup. Defined by specific mutations in mitochondrial DNA or Y chromosome DNA. And this is why y'all don't want to take y'all DNA tests. Oh, the DNA test is for entertainment and all of that. Is it an entertainment when they use it to lock your ass up? Right? If a white man murdered her black kid and got away with it, okay, but left some DNA, don't sit here and tell me you wouldn't want that DNA to be checked. And why is it accepted in solving crimes and not just known as a science that you can determine bloodlines, lineage? All right, for those who saying haplogroup, that's not real, but it's considered a real science. Mapping haplogroup, is this a real science? Yes. Mapping haplogroups is a real scientifically validated field of population genetics, not fake science. It's not pseudo. It uses molecular biology to trace deep ancestral lineages. Okay, so when it determines who you might be or Indian and things of that nature in these haplogroups, how come it's not tracing a Africoid, Negroid haplogroups in America as dominant? Now, if you dark skin or copper tone and your hair straight, like wavy, I'm not talking to you. You could be the original, your people could be the original Native Americans, right? In America, but why don't you let your hair grow long? Why you got it faded like you were African American? Why isn't the haplogroup in America portraying Negroid blood? It's portraying a haplogroup that is stating that the people in America came out of fucking Siberia. Why isn't that being protested? Why isn't that being protested? You said slavery happened in reverse. This shit didn't even happen. Then how are you delineating from Africans? And that's the problem. And the problem isn't a slap in your face from the colonizer who reversed this shit. Why aren't you Black Indians fighting to change the complete narrative? There was no slave ships. There is no slave ships. Okay. I don't think in history where the British and the Spanish and the Portuguese and things of that nature, when they was doing business, building these ships, right, to go snatch up and kidnap Africans, that they said, we're creating slave ships. Okay. You give like you lend in ignorance so quickly. These ships were not created as slave ships. These ships didn't go pick up just Africans and East Indians and anybody dark from the old world. It was picking up other resources as well. They are considered cargo ships. And the African kidnapped slaves were considered cargo. They weren't slaves on that boat. They were cargo. So there are no slave ships. They're cargo ships. When they got to America, they weren't, when people got to early America, even with the Indians, there were no slaves. There were indentured servants. Until that money got important. Why did the Indian slave trade stop? You had to take an Indian into the Caribbean islands. You couldn't enslave Indians damn near in America. Why? Because they knew where they were at. How did the East Indians get into America? Do the research. If there were no ships. See, when you say slave ship, who wrote in history, right, this is the slave ship, this is the, it may be a cargo ship. It may be written down as a slave ship. There's information on there are cargo ships that came over here, right? Indentured servant ships that came over here. Look at the East. How did the Chinese get over here? India is further away from America than Africa. And y'all saying the African slave trade didn't happen, but East Indians were brought over here. Look at the Caribbean. You know what a coolie is? Look that up. Look that up. So we can accept that East Indians were brought over here, but can't accept that Africans were brought over here. And when they got over here, they were put in bondage. Now, heritage, Indian heritage, okay? Heredity, you see the breakdown on that. Heir, inheritance, ancestral estate, heirloom. Pre-colonizer, what's the black lands? Pre-colonizer, what's the all black Indian lands? The African blood is strong, man. Okay. African blood is strong. We not the same. Heir, what are y'all inheriting from these 5 civilized tribes? Heredity, inheritance, succession, legacy. Okay. The legacy, transmission of qualities from parents to offspring. If you're practicing your Indian heritage, what have you gained from the 5 civilized tribes? Genetic history of Africa. When I was talking about them haplogroups, right? The haplogroup hit all over the world. Okay? International trade of enslaved Africans. Now, I'm not going to read this information right here. This is under haplogroup, genetic history of the African, okay? All over the world. They are marking these haplogroups. Americas, out of 642 individuals from 15 populations among the African diaspora in the Americas sampled in 2016, my mate is a biologist, okay? And she's not an underling biologist. My mate graduated, she's one of them sisters that graduated with all A's, 1C. This all real science. Sampled in 2016, and I say that, okay, because my mate is always a reference. I know what I'm talking about. My mate is a reference, though, when I'm dealing with this science and information. Some of which included individuals who self-identified as being of African descent. The ancestry of 328 African Americans were found to be 80% African. The ancestry of Afro-Jamaicans were found to be 89% African. Why is that? A lot more Africans went to Jamaica, Haiti, right? And the ancestry of Puerto Ricans were found to be 27% African. Look at the Puerto Ricans today. You wouldn't outright say Puerto Ricans are black people. But there are some Puerto Ricans who know. There might be some white Puerto Ricans, right, who don't give a fuck about that side. But there are some Puerto Ricans that have no problem in stating that there is African blood in them. Right? How can you talk about black Americans and not talk about the African? This could be explained by statistical residuals from the recent lineages, but also from a couple of lineages whose founders in Africa were likely not detected or due to minor errors in the sequences, leading to overestimates of the age estimate of specific lineages. During the modern period, West Africans introduced more than 75% of sub-Saharan mitochondrial DNA into North America, and Southern Africans introduced almost 15%. You go check those numbers. There's a reference right here. That's a reference right there. Um, do you know how powerful African blood is? The, the African blood from a woman, also from a man, but an African woman is the carrier of the African, right? Is the producer with the semen of another African or one that looks like her. African genes are dominant genes. Okay? And in order to get down to straight hair, right? You can have white skin, blue eyes, and brown hair in America, and you have some African blood in America, or Black American blood in America. Mixing, we got to understand the mixing. So those that retained the woolly hair, the dark skin, means no matter how you mixed, your bloodline stayed closer to your African blood. Prove it wrong. Prove it wrong. Right? Stop playing. Africans and African Americans who are Black Americans are the strongest people with the culture. Okay? Black American culture is not Indian culture. Cut it out. We ain't create this shit off no the jazz, blues, some country, blues and country damn near depending on how you sing it, interchangeable. Jazz, blues, country, rock, hip hop is not, I repeat, is not based on any rhythms that the Indian uses. Okay, that's African. Stop playing. Let's check out the Choctaws. Executive branch. Mississippi Choctaw. Mississippi Choctaw. All right, this is where this gets serious. You shouldn't be like, oh, this nigga playing. He really trying to throw darts. Do many Black Americans claim their white blood? Black Americans is down there like, man, I ain't got no European blood up in me. But what if your European bloodline go back to their type of royalty? You know, they talk about the Black Europeans. Nigga, you might be a Black European too. You a Black European too. But let's check out the Choctaw, Mississippi tribal government. It should definitely be some afros. Okay. It should definitely be some afros, some what Tim and Phoebe said. I can't think of some chip away hair. Right. That's what Tim and Phoebe said. This hair afros is Chippewa hair. It's not Choctaw. Okay, y'all just grab anything, put it together, right? We all Native Americans. Okay, all black people in Africa, not from one tribe. They may have originated from one people and became, but now, okay. But this is the government, though. There's not no goddamn reservation. That's buildings. Dan Calloway said we didn't come from no teepees and shit like that, no huts. We came from buildings. He said it was like this in the 1700s for the American Black Indians, the executive branch. Okay, government services, tribal member services, development, and education. Why is it so hard to claim to be any of these 5 civilized tribes of either original? Okay, and do black people not have this because they're classified as black? That's when you should be like, hey man, a real serious protest. This is should be bigger than African Americans as Negroes trying to get civil rights. Okay, but check it out. Those who fought for civil rights knew they had African ancestry, knew they wasn't specifically from these lands. And look at that work we put in. And so the Black Indians, for y'all who don't have no African blood, trying to tell all the Black Americans is native Indians, this is y'all should be on their heads. I mean, that's what the wars and all this was all about, right? Now, we got the tribal chairmen and chiefs. There's money up in here. You see that from 1945. Walter Plecker, right? Who was this dude right here? Y'all talk about so these niggas got the Native American Indian name, and y'all was changed to Negroes, but these not the real Indians, and they got the Indian name. So they was reclassified as Indians. No protest. They're not protesting. Ooh, check that out. Don't look like that type of hair right there. Okay. And and she's 87 years old in this picture. And so I'm sure that hair was quite stronger when she was younger and black. None of that hair growing. How did this happen? How did they become the Indians? Did Walter Plecker reclassify them? How did they become the Indians if black people? With woolly hair or with straight hair? Look like them. Who are the Indians? Look, they got some European in them. We got some European in us, and we still retain the woolly hair. You know how deep that is? That's genetics. That's the legislative branch. They got court. Y'all ain't taking nothing to their courts? Huh? All you Negroes trying to tell us, Dan Calloway, y'all ain't taking nothing to their courts? All that paperwork, Dan Calloway be like, I dare her, nigga. I dare somebody try to, you ain't took that paperwork to their courts? You've been asking for donations for years, been all around looking at signs and shit, showing us signs and all of this, and how you was reclassified. You ain't been up in that court. Y'all didn't go to their court. Y'all can go to their court. You understand? The tribal council has 15 communities, committees, my bad, committees that focuses on specific areas of the tribal government. Each is chaired by a council member. Each member may only chair only one committee at a time, and the vice chief sits on every committee. How come black Indians don't have that? Have this? Hold on. Oh, behind me. That's the court. Whose pictures is up on the wall? Hold on. Something just came to my mind. Y'all might not remember this. Okay, this was a very powerful scene back in the day. Do the Right Thing, I think it's 1989, but let's check it out right quick.
Called him a bum. I don't think he was a bum. He just wasn't right for me. He wasn't compassionate. I need passion in my life. That's what I would say. He's a mamaloo. He's a mamaloo? Yeah, right.
Yo, Mook.
A couple of words of Thai. Okay.
Mookie.
So you know I'm still.
What?
How come you got no brothers up on the wall?
Man, ask Sal, right?
Hey, Sal, how come you got no brothers up on the wall here?
You want brothers on the wall? Get your own place. You can do what you want to do. You can put your brothers and uncles and nieces and nephews, your stepfather, stepmother, whoever you want, you see? But this is my pizzeria. American Italians on the wall only.
Take it easy, pal.
And you, hey, don't stop me today.
What? Yeah, that might be fine, Sal, but you own this. Rarely do I see any American Italians eating in here. All I see is black folks. So since we spend much money here, we do have some say. Ooh.
You see, he said black folks. There was no separation back then. You understand what I'm saying? But when he said black folks, who was he talking about? What was known as black folks back then? African Americans. But anybody that was connected to the African American experience. Because that legendary brother that played that part, y'all know who he is, Esposito. Don't think he's 100% African American. I think he might be Puerto Rican. Let's look that up. Giancarlo Esposito. That's his name right there. Let's look at his lineage. Giancarlo Giuseppe Esposito was born in Copenhagen, Denmark. He is the son of Giovanni Esposito, an Italian stagehand and carpenter from Naples, and Elizabeth Lisa Foster, an African-American opera and nightclub singer from Alabama. That's an interesting mix right there, right? But when he said, had no brothers on the wall, okay, his father is from Naples, an Italian, and when he said no brothers on the wall, who was he talking about? Okay, who was he talking about? Y'all know about Dean Big Brother Almighty, right? In School Days. Here the brother is right here. On the left, right next to Spike Lee. This not representing the Italians. Okay. If you ain't seen this movie, go check it out. This is very big. This is a classic. This is 1988. Go watch the movie. There is no black Indians in this movie. Are you saying that Spike Lee he's an agent? They're all agents, and the plot is to turn black Indians, indigenous American Indians in America with woolly hair into Negroes and Africans? Wait, hold on. Now I'm gonna end it with this. When it came down to worship, when we was converted into Christianity, you know, one of the first black African churches was in South Carolina and Georgia, right? And it goes back pretty far. Question: when we was able to worship, right? Why wasn't the Christianity mixed with Indian knowledge? Okay, and this is where you find some of our original religious, philosophical, scientific systems that we use today. Okay, you got to check out the Bakongo cosmogram. I'm talking about possibly before we was in any religion, Islam, you know, Hebrew Israelites, Christianity. It says right here, the holes in the floor are in the shape of an African prayer symbol, known to some as a Bakongo cosmogram. In parts of Africa, it also means flash of the spirits and represents birth, life, death, and rebirth. Now, these blacks who were enslaved in America were originally Indians. Then how would they even know about this symbol at all? Anu 9 Nupu. Y'all hold it down. Peace.